It is my honor to get to introduce Steffany Barton. She is a registered nurse, a clairvoyant, an intuitive medium who works passionately to ignite the spark contained in each person to a brilliant fire in the soul. Through lectures, stage presentations, books, and individual sessions, she illuminates the unseen world and speaks for the soul. You know, her work has been shown and featured on TV and radio, and she likes to say that her message of love has a ripple effect throughout the world. You know, I first met Steffany Barton at Unity of Overland Park many years ago, and I have seen her inspire so many different people. So when I contacted her at the end of September, long after I started here, I was in for a bit of a surprise. Steph, you want to come up? So I invited her to come and speak, and what happened?
Well, we had come to a birthday party for one of my dear friend's daughter here in Lawrence. Can you hear me okay? Now can you hear me? What I just said didn't matter. You didn't need to hear it. Well, we had been in Lawrence at the end of September for a birthday party, and I just felt called to drive by this church. And so we drove by. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and the kids and I stopped right out here in the street, and I said, I want to go to that church. I think that little church needs me. And then we drove back home to Leawood the next day.
I emailed.
Sean emailed me.
I received her message, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was truly amazing. I knew then that I was supposed to be here. So I'm very happy to be with you all today.
So thank you. And she brought her and her daughters as well. So welcome, Steffany.
Thank you. I am just truly happy to be here. We're going to start the talk today with a skit that the kiddos have prepared for you. So I'm going to let them come up and do their thing, and then I'll do my thing. But come on up. Good job. You go down the table. They did a good job. So love does live. And this is a season of thanks and abundance and busyness. But sometimes it can also be a bittersweet season, especially at those times when we've experienced a loss. So I remember the first Thanksgiving. Okay, not the first Thanksgiving, but I remember the first Thanksgiving just after I had lost my mom. It was not an easy time for me. The holidays used to have been something magical, a time of celebration, a wonderful time to gather together. And on that Thursday, I didn't feel like celebrating. And when facing grief, and when feeling swallowed up by loss, I didn't feel particularly thankful either. And so on Thanksgiving morning, I got up, I got dressed, and I went back to bed. That was about as much energy as I had to face that day. But I made it through. And then my birthday rolled around. First birthday without her there to celebrate with me. And a similar routine ensued, got up, got dressed, went to bed. Because that's sometimes all we can do to navigate that kind of grief and loss. Christmas was a numbing blur. I didn't feel merry or bright. Just wanted to get by. And that's what happens in those times of grief. It creates this inner conflict where we want to celebrate and we want things to be right. But in times of loss, nothing quite seems the way that it was. And I didn't know how to go forward with such contrasting feelings within me. In fact, I couldn't go forward. And so I had to stop. I had to stop and go back. And what I went back to was some of my most early learnings about God and spirit, some teachings that came from the Bible. And what came to me first was a verse from Jeremiah. In Jeremiah, God said to Jeremiah, "Before you were born, I knew you. I knew you before you were created in the womb." And then I remembered Jesus' promise in John 3:16, "Whoever believes will have everlasting life." And so as I was struggling with this idea of grief and where was my mom and what was this all about, I realized she was somewhere before she was here, and she was continuing after she left here. And so I called her, "If you're there, let me feel you. If you're around, let me see you. If you still know me, let me sense you. Just reach out. Show me a sign." And I waited, and I waited. I waited until July.
What?
It was a long time. But as it so happened, my mom loved penguins. For whatever reason, they were her very most favorite animal. They're cute. They like to flap around. I don't know, but she loved them. So one day in July, I was walking through the grocery store, and for some reason, I looked up, and there was this freezer of dry ice. And bigger than anything I've ever noticed in my life was a penguin on the label to this freezer of dry ice. And I stopped because it was so striking and so noticeable. It was a penguin right there in July. And I thought, that's weird. Not a real one, a picture of one. The real one would have been noticeable. I think everybody else in the store would have noticed that too. But it was a picture of one. And it caught my eye. So then I finished up or walked through the store, and I went through the ice cream aisle. And I looked up, and there were those ice cream sandwiches, and the brand was North Star. And guess what their little logo is? A penguin. Yes, 2 times in the span of one shopping trip. And something started waking up inside. I started feeling, there's life. Love lives. And so this penguin, this symbol, this sign became somewhat of a spiritual guide for me. And what I discovered as I paid attention to this penguin and as I got still and as I continued to accept that my mom's spirit was with me, I discovered that I could go to a space. Not a place like the other side or heaven, but that there's a space. It's a space beyond time. It's a space beyond the physical. It's a space where the river of life is flowing abundantly, waltzing, dancing, where this river of life flows and spirit lives. And so when I could get myself into that space, I could see my mom's spirit. I could hear her. I could find her essence. But in that space, it wasn't just her spirit. I could see spirits and hear them and communicate with them. I found that space. But you know what? You can go to that space too. And that's what I want to tell you about today, is how through this holiday season, you can go to that space so that spirit will be a part of your celebration, spirit in the season. So the first part of accessing that space, or going to that place where spirit is to find a spark. It's to find a spark. So the spark is these physical things. We're physical creatures, right? And that's part of the harshness of death, is that it takes to the body. It takes that thing that we hug, that thing that we hold, that which we love. It perishes with physical death. And so what the spark gives us is something to hold on to. Something that can anchor us when those emotions are battering us down. Something that we can cling to so that we can feel with our physical senses a connection to those who are not physically with us but who are living inside, whose spirits reside with us always. That's a spark. And that's the first thing that helps us connect with that living spirit of love that's always with us. So this spark can come in many different forms. It can be jewelry from a loved one. Maybe it's a quilt or a blanket. I worked with a lady not too long ago whose father had died very traumatically. And after he made his transition, one of her friends gave her what she called a prayer shawl. And so the shawl was comprised of different colors of yarn. It has different tassels that hang from it. But every time she's missing him, and every time she feels isolated or alone, she first holds the shawl, and then she finds a particular color, and she holds on to a piece of that and lets that serve as a memory. It reminds her of a prayer or a story. Gives her something to hold on to. Then she wraps it around herself and feels her father's spirit draw near. That's a spark. I worked with another lady not too long ago whose brother had been killed in a car accident. And just before he passed, she had given him a watch. After things had settled down, after the services, and after they'd performed all those ceremonies and celebrations, she had asked to have the watch back. And so whenever she needed to feel a connection with him, she would put on the watch. And it served a dual purpose, because not only did that watch remind her that he was watching over her, but that he was watching over her all the time. That watch was a spark. I worked with a lady this week whose daughter was killed in an accident, and she wears her daughter's hoodies to bed every night. so that they can cuddle together. So all those years when she tucked her daughter in, now it's her daughter, Spirit, who tucks her in. She wraps up in those hoodies. It's a spark. It's a spark. And connecting with loved ones on the other side isn't just about human spirits. No, love comes in all different shapes and sizes and bodies and species, too. I worked with a lady this week who had lost her beloved dog. It was more like a child to her than an animal. And she keeps the blanket that this little dog laid on the bed. And so when she feels sad or lonely, she holds that blanket. And she told me, you know, it's weird, but sometimes I feel like there's actually something laying on the blanket when I go to grab it. And I told her, that's because there is. It's that spirit.
But you can't feel it.
You don't feel it with your hands like weight, but you feel it with your heart. You feel it with your soul. But we need those sparks. We need those things to hold on to. So get the ring or hold on to the old vase or put out the grandfather clock. Get out the old china. Pull out the recipe cards. Pick up the pennies. Gather the feathers. Take these tools and these tokens and these trinkets because these anchor us to that living spirit of love. That's the spark. So you got the spark for the holidays, right? You can do it. It's the spark. But because we are so much more than our physical bodies, we're more than just that spark. We're more than the stuff. So much more than that. So when you're navigating the holidays and capturing spirit, you want the spark, but you have to remember the spirit. So the second thing that you need is spirit. The spirit is the essence of who we are. It's our quirks, our characteristics, the little qualities that make us who we are. It's what you think about when you remember someone. It's how you can just call them to your mind and it makes you smile. That's our spirit. And that, my friends, is indestructible. It's unchangeable. It's undaunted. It is eternal and everlasting. Your spirit will never die, ever. And so when we're navigating through this holiday season, capture the spirit of your loved ones. Call that into your heart because they're with you, so recognize that in your life. So I think there's 3 really easy ways that we can capture spirit and we can recognize the spirit of our loved ones. Because I'll be honest, when you're in the throes of grief, I know in those holidays, those firsts for me, my sadness was so overwhelming, I couldn't find my own spirit, let alone that spirit. So I think there's 3 really powerful tools that we have in our world that can help us access that spirit when our own emotions can be pretty intense, when our own path can sometimes be pretty tough. And the first tool that helps us access spirit is stories. So write down your favorite memories of your loved one. Share with someone in the congregation their favorite joke, or what about them made you laugh. Talk about them. Share their stories. Because that brings that living spirit right back into the present. When we talk about the stories, it closes that gap. So that we don't think about them not being here. We remember their presence is near. So tell the stories. The next way we can connect with spirit that's so powerful is through songs, through music. Music has an amazing ability to just lift us, to transform us, to dissolve the barriers of physical, and to put us right into the heart. So play favorite music. Play the old songs that make you smile and sing and remember. Now, at first that can be tough, because I'll tell you, my mom's favorite Christmas song was The Little Drummer Boy.
Ooh.
It's a good song.
I used to have like a little sports radio.
A sports radio?
Yeah, and it played Christmas music.
It's beautiful music.
Drummer Boy.
Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas song?
My Christmas song is Let It Snow.
Not today, though. Let's not let it snow today. Nah, I like that song, too. Yeah. Do you like Little Drummer Boy?
Yeah, too.
It's a good song, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So that was her favorite song. And it's such a sweet little song. But that first Christmas, I was in my car, innocently minding my own business. I turn on the radio. It's Christmas songs. That's fine. It's December. We're cool. Pum, 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 pum. I lost it. Couldn't do it. It was way too much. So sometimes those songs can be intense. But you know what? The next year, I listened to about 30 seconds of it. And then the next year, I listened to about a minute of it. And then the year after that, I could listen to the whole song. And it made me feel so close to her spirit. And part of why she loved that song was because she had lost a little boy. My brother had died. And when she listened to that song, it reminded her of him. And then when I listened to that song, it reminded me of her. But it also reminded me that she could hold and be with him in a way that she wasn't able to in this physical world. So listen to the songs. Sing, dance, listen. Use the stories and sing the songs. Then the final way that we can access spirit, we can really tap into that ever-present power that transcends the physical, is through sacred ceremonies. Through sacred ceremonies. Now, I'm not talking about something in church. Here in Kansas City, I think one of the most powerful sacred ceremonies is a Chiefs tailgate party. I think that's a religious experience for a lot of folks. Or maybe a Jayhawks game, I don't know. Is this true? These are sacred experiences. So those sacred ceremonies are not about something in a church or something that has a religious context. The sacred ceremonies are the habits, the things that we love to do. Those things that engage us, that make our lives unique to us, that we share as family, that we share as friends. So I worked with a lady who had lost her son, and he was an avid swimmer. So he was on a swim team in one of the high schools in Kansas City. And every time before a swim match, he had a lucky meal that he would eat. It wasn't too big, but it wasn't too small. But it was his lucky meal, so he'd eat the same thing before every meet. After he made his transition, his swim team decided that they would get together before every meet and have his lucky meal to honor his spirit. A beautiful sacred ceremony, a way of accessing that. And then they could feel him with them as they were there before the swim meet. That's a sacred ceremony. It's a sacred way of connecting with spirit. So, this holiday season, set a plate at the table. Maybe you'll buy a Christmas ornament and hang it on the tree. Maybe it's nice to plant a memorial garden, to turn a t-shirt into a pillow, to have that. Whatever it is, whatever those special celebrations and those special ceremonies are, invite those, practice those, engage in those, participate in those through this holiday season so you feel spirit just with you, wrapping all around you, holding you in love. because that is the true spirit of the season. So to capture that spirit, we tell stories, we sing songs, and we practice sacred ceremony. It helps us stay anchored and steady and strong. So 2 steps. Easy, right? Right? You light the spark, and then you capture spirit. And then through this season, and through every season, through all of time, you will know that love lives. Love is physically present with us, spiritually inviting us to be in this moment, to feel that eternal connection that is always present in our heart. Now, I don't want you just to sit there and nod and tell me that you got this. I'm going to make sure you get it. So I'm going to send you home with a spark and a symbol that represents spirit. So if the ushers would like to come up now. I want each of you to have a candle. This represents the spark. And I don't know when it will be right for you. Maybe it'll be on Thanksgiving. Maybe it'll be on Wednesday at 3:33. I don't know when, but you'll need this. And when it's time to find that spark, I want you to light it. And when you light it, I want you to say, love lives. Because love does live. This is your spark. Got that. I'll pass them out too. There you go. There you go. There you go, sweetie. There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Because love does live. Thank you. Oh, I'm not going to get there that way, am I?
Steffany, we have music next. Can we pass out the candles?
Huh?
During that?
Sure. Definitely. Am I complete?
Yeah.
Well, almost. Now, so that was quick. So there's your spark. Well, you can't leave without being sparky, right? There you go. You need more too? All right. Did everybody have one now? Good. One more. You're welcome. So now you have your spark. On your way out, when you leave, at the back, I have a table. And on the way out, I want you to take some spirit. So there's feathers out there. Yes, there are feathers out there. Do you know what kind it is? It's a goose feather. It's a real... Do you? Feathers are a gift. Feathers are a gift from angels and from spirit. So yeah, when you find them, pick them up and keep them. But take a feather with you. And so maybe you want to put this out on the table at Thanksgiving. Or maybe you'll put the feather by your bedside. But put it where you'll see it and where you'll remember that even sometimes when you feel lost, Spirit has always found you. Your loved ones know where you are. They love you. They're with you. They celebrate you. So celebrate them. Because love lives. Spirit and the spark. Thank you.